There's a rule at the heart of international law that says one country cannot use force against another. An exception to this is if a country is acting in self-defense. The US and Israel say that's what this is.
The United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests.
So does their reasoning for attacking Iran stack up under international law? And if it doesn't, what are the consequences? French President Emmanuel Macron told his nation the US and Israeli strikes were outside the framework of international law. Spain's leader Pedro Sanchez called for de-escalation and full respect. US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth, however, says he has the authority.
All on our terms, with maximum authorities.
So who's right?
So these attacks on Iran are absolutely illegal under international law. There was no order given to attack Israel or the United States. And so this clearly doesn't fall within the self-defense exception.
After World War II, a group of nations made an agreement on how to prevent the world from again spiralling into war. They formed the United Nations and signed its charter. Article 2 of that charter has been in place from day one. It says all members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. However, there are two exceptions. If the UN Security Council has authorised it, which has not happened in this case, and under Article 51, UN members can use force as a means of self-defence. That's key here. The US and Israel have been trying to argue that their operations against Iran are in self-defense. Part of that is their decades-long fear Tehran is developing a nuclear weapon. But Article 51 actually says if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations. If an armed attack occurs.
So the United States is certainly abusing the concept of self-defense because it's trying to claim that it stretches so far to allow you to use force to prevent future speculative risks to your security in the absence of any actual attack or any imminent attack.
But what about Iran's proxies, militant groups Iran has supported in armed attacks on Israel? Are these relevant attacks when it comes to the self-defense justification?
There are other rules in international law for dealing with terrorism and for dealing with state sponsorship of armed groups or groups which are funded or armed or supported to attack other states. But the rules don't allow you to escalate the response to attack the other country itself.
So the question is, can a country ever strike first and still legally claim self-defense? There is precedent for using the self-defense justification when an attack is imminent. It dates back to 1837, the Canadian Revolutionaries, and an old wooden ship called the Caroline. It's called the Caroline Doctrine.
In that case, that was rebels about to cross a river and attack the British on the other side. I mean, that's as imminent as it can get. It certainly doesn't extend to somehow preventively disarming another country.
So if these legal standards haven't been met, what happens? Dr. Saul said the American and Israeli attacks could constitute a crime of aggression by the country's leaders. That could be decided on by the International Criminal Court, which can, in some circumstances, prosecute leaders for unlawful uses of force. But there's a problem.
It doesn't have jurisdiction over Israel or the US because they are not parties.
There are already outstanding ICC warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu, so more action by the court is unlikely to deter him. Enforcing international law requires a nation being willing to prosecute another. But which is that really likely to be? Iran is attacking Gulf states, any US allies might be reluctant, and Russia and China would be unlikely to use that forum. France and Spain have criticised the US and Israeli attacks as a breach of international law, not that it has bothered Donald Trump.
And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases, and that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it.
International law is on shaky ground. It's made up of conventions and agreements which require nations to uphold them. Experts fear ignoring it will erode the promises about peace and security made after World War II, the deadliest conflict in history.